Hi, I'm James Lamont, Director of the Medine Center for Rural Economic Development at the University of Minnesota, Crookston. I would like to welcome you to part 11 of our supply chain series in response to COVID-19. Last week, we talked about restaurants. This week, we're going to talk about food banks. Within the restaurant sphere, March 2020 saw the largest decline in restaurant history in terms of demand. Simultaneous to that, in recorded history, March 2020, we observed the largest demand increase for food banks in history across the United States. As unemployment insurance was unable to keep up with the volume of layoffs that occurred throughout the country, many people were forced with difficult decisions. Some of those issues were associated with paying food, rent, or for medication. Many of them struggled with food purchases, and as a result, we saw lines akin to the Great Depression of early last century. Although it was facilitated in vehicles because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the lines nevertheless were miles long. The second half of March and the first part of April saw additional exponential increases in terms of demand and the strains on food banks. During our discussion regarding food produce or fresh produce production in the United States, we talked about the distribution capacity to handle a majority of these products. Unfortunately, many of these food banks were unable to absorb more capacity and as a result ran out of food, therefore creating a situation where food was destroyed at the site where it was grown and it couldn't be distributed to people that needed it across the country. As stimulus checks and unemployment checks reached people across the country throughout April and May of 2020, the demand for food banks decreased. Although it is still highly elevated as a result of the coronavirus and the subsequent economic crisis, the reality is, without government support in terms of stimulus or unemployment, we could see spikes again in terms of demand on food banks. The food supply shortage that has been discussed for part 1 through 9 of this series did not contribute to the food bank shortages, as I mentioned. It was a complete demand requirement that led to this. And we suspect that demand will remain elevated through 2020 as a result of the economic impact associated with COVID-19. Thank you for joining us today and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.